it would hurt to know if you ever were.
Welcome back to BEYPER.View. This is episode number 12. We have a special guest today, Louise Bale. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Louise.
And thanks for having us, Aaron.
No worries at all. Louise is the president of the Australian Dysphonia Network, and we're just going to have a little bit of a chat today about the network and just bring some awareness and hopefully some education on how we can hopefully improve people's lives and get them involved in the network if they need some support.
That would be wonderful. That's
Yeah,
our biggest
great.
challenge.
Yeah, it's the biggest challenge of all foundations and networks,
Yeah.
bringing awareness.
There's so many out there. I think that's part of the problem. There are so many people doing really good work.
Yep.
But, you know, in essence, are quite small. And
Yes.
so how do they get their voice heard?
Yep.
And that's not a pun, but for us it is about trying to get our voices heard when they don't work so well.
Yes. Starting off strong with some jokes. I like that. It's good. Okay. This is just a quick little intro just to let the people know what this podcast is about today. So the format for this is a little bit different today, in the way that we usually would but would like to just have a laid back conversation. But due to the network and the information we kind of want to get across, it's just going to be a bit more informational based. Hopefully, Louise knows a lot more than I do about this, so
We can still have fun with it.
yes, we'll get across as much information as we can and just enjoy ourselves as best as we can along the way. So with that, I think the best thing we can do is get into the first question and get the conversation rolling,
Absolutely.
if you're ready.
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, so the first question is just quite simple, so you can answer this at length at your leisure, and that is, what is the Australian Dysphonia Network and what is the role that you play within the network?
That's a big question.
Yes.
And I think we probably should start by saying what is dysphonia,
Yes.
and then it will make more sense what the network is. So dysphonia is actually a medical term, and it simply means difficulty making voice sounds. And so I think most of us and most of the listeners would recognise a time where they might have had laryngitis or had a croaky voice because they shouted too loud at the football. In a sense, that
Sung
is...
along too loudly at a concert?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that is dysphonia. But for most people, that's a really short-lived experience. It might or might not have much impact on their day-to-day life, their relationships. But when you have a condition that goes on as a permanent thing or it lasts for many years, and it's often the result of something that's a bit more chronic and long-term, then it does have the ability to really change people's way that they operate in the world.
Yes.
So that's dysphonia in a nutshell, and we'll come back to, the reasons that people might have it shortly. But the network came about because people really don't think about voice issues.
Yes, definitely not.
They don't. They think about vision, they think about hearing, they think about those sort of big ticket items in communication. But voice is not something that we tend to value or recognise.
Take for granted a little.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about that on the drive here. I'm like, people that have problems, that hearing impaired, have their sign language and stuff. I'm thinking, is there actually anything for people that don't have a voice besides like writing or even learning to sign to help to some degree?
To some degree, that's true. It's hearing impaired people can have a hearing aid, and you're right, they have sign language as an effective and really well known form of communication. But for us, dysphonia can come in many different shapes and sizes, and it can fluctuate. So there is nothing that actually helps to put the word out to the person that I'm talking with that might say, I'm having a bad voice day and you're going to struggle to hear me. You're right, people just take it for granted. They open their mouth and words come out.
That's right. And until they're in a position where they can't make any sound at all, or they're having a bad day, is when you see that frustration
frustration.
Yeah.
In a sense, this is a perfect example. I mean, how could you do a podcast
If I
we
couldn't
didn't
talk.
have a voice?
Exactly.
You know, how could a newsreader read the news if they didn't have a voice?
Exactly.
How would performers, you know, opera singers generally, how would it have movies?
Yep.
We wouldn't have movies.
That's right.
So until we stop and actually think about the role the voice plays in everybody's life every day, then I think we don't really appreciate what it would be like to lose it.
That's right.
So that's dysphonia. So
In a nutshell.
that's the Reader's Digest
Yes.
version. So the reason we developed a network was that when I was first diagnosed back in, I can't remember what year it was, I was 46, I'm 62, so that's what's that,
Wow.
16 years ago.
I'm a truck driver, I'm bad with maths.
I think that's 16 years, about 16 years
Yep.
ago. I felt so alone, and I have to say that my voice now, today, what you're hearing is really good.
Yep.
And that's the result of some treatment. But in the beginning, it was all over the place. It was broke. It was chopped up. It was very, very quiet. And I thought, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. It'd be very frustrating as well.
It was so frustrating. And like you, I'm
Yeah.
a talker.
Yep.
And
Can't keep
so-
us quiet at the best of times.
That's right. So, despite not having a voice, I insisted that I still needed to talk, and people looked at me like, "What the hell? What's
Yeah.
going on?" So, of course, I started doing a bit of background research to find out, and what I discovered is that there wasn't very much. I couldn't find much, and certainly not locally. And when I was finally diagnosed, I asked the specialist, was there any kind of support group or anything that I could meet other people? And the answer was no, not in Australia. And so around that time I was jumping onto international forums to see whether I could maybe find anybody in those networks that lived locally and at least get some information from people with shared experience, perhaps from America or the UK.
And that's how you and my mum
I was
got in contact with each
that's
other?
how we
Yes.
met. It was a match made in heaven.
Yes.
A
I
match
do
made
remember
in
Mum explaining that to me
cyberspace.
again recently.
Yeah, it was. It was the most wonderful moment. I was on a chat group and basically said it was something about something in Australia, and this lovely person pops up and said, "Are you in Australia? So am I. We should have coffee." And I remember laughing, thinking, "That's great, but Australia's a big place."
It's a big place, yeah.
So we chatted a little more, and then she said, I live in out of western area of Sydney," and I said, "Oh, so do I." And she said, "I work in Penrith," and I said, So do I.
Yep.
And it turned out that I worked at the hospital, she worked at the university,
Yes.
and literally we were 2 kilometres apart. So
That's crazy.
It was crazy, but it felt like it was meant to be.
Yes.
So
And the things that have happened and the milestone you've both achieved since then is just phenomenal.
amazing, yes.
Yeah.
So having met Brenda was like, it was wonderful because although her condition is different to mine,
Yep.
she has a condition called Myasthenia Gravis.
I couldn't remember. I didn't write it down, and I was trying to remember the whole way here. I'm like, Mum sent it to me. I should know this.
And Myasthenia Gravis, it's a neurological condition that affects muscles in your body, and it affects different parts of body with different people.
Yes.
For her impact, and she won't mind me saying this, but it's largely respiratory and voice.
Yes.
So if she gets tired or hot,
Her voice and the communication
her breathing
suffers.
ability
Yes.
is less, and her voice suffers. So she'll be very whispery. Hot days are not good
Yes,
for her.
that's right.
Where I have a condition called spasmodic dysphonia, which is also neurological, but it means that the messages that go from my brain to my voice box to make the muscles work trips over itself sometimes, a bit like a tick, like someone that's got a tick that does that. So same but different, completely different medical labels, but the impact of
Still be
life was
great.
the same,
Yep.
and it was massive. So we basically met, started chatting, And then along comes a third Aussie into the picture. Another one that we found through that same network who said, I'm in Australia too.
Yep.
And that was the lovely Lynn, who is also still part of our small circle, and was instrumental in us saying, this is okay, that we've got each other, but we need to do something more.
Definitely.
So I travelled to the American group. They're much bigger and are funded through one of the big pharmaceutical companies over there. So much more established as a group, and they have an annual forum or conference.
Yep.
And I was feeling so distressed at the time about work and whether I would be able to continue working, and just my life in general was really upside down. And so I discovered this conference was happening in Florida, and my husband and son were here when I said, oh, look at that, and they just said, you should go.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was like, go to America? Wow, that's wild. So that was, I think, 2010 or thereabouts. We did that. Michael and I went. We made a holiday of it and went to that conference, and it was both the best and the worst weekend of my life. The holiday was awesome, but this weekend of the conference was incredibly confronting because I met many people from all over, mostly America, who travel there, and their voices were all so different.
Yep.
Ranging from, it'd be hard to know there was a problem, through to really difficult.
Really difficult problem communicating.
Absolutely. And for some of them it had been so many years, and I think I was left with a feeling of, oh my God, this is me forever, and this is where I'm going. So it was a bit much.
Yep. Definitely would have been a little confronting.
It was wildly confronting, but at the same time, there was a lot of laughing, there was a lot of sharing of stories, there was a lot of empathy and a lot of support for each other. So I came back and I thought, that's what we need.
Yep.
You
need that support network.
Yeah, I shouldn't get emotional, but it was so big. And I came back and I said, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen, because there are so many people
that
like
do struggle.
us.
Yep.
And you know, Australia, as you said, is such a big place. And if you didn't live like as it was, Brenda and Lynn and I were here in Sydney. So we were thinking, what about people who live in Bathurst or Dubbo or, you know, Coonabarabran or
they don't have access to anything,
you know,
to help them.
That's what. So we were lucky that we were all connected to really good specialists here in Sydney, that we had each other, and that we had good medical support and good speech pathologists. But we said, no, we need to do something to reach out to those other people.
Definitely. For anyone out west, especially New South Wales, to receive any kind of treatment, they have to travel so far.
They have to, and I think that for a lot of people, because what we've discovered is that GPs don't really, and through no fault of their own, but I think they just don't really appreciate that person who keeps coming in with laryngitis.
There's an actual, like a underlying condition there.
Yeah,
they're
there's something that they need. It needs, you know, if they didn't respond to the first round of antibiotics and they come back and they give them another round of antibiotics, there's got to be a point at which you go, something else is going on.
Definitely.
So
they need some kind of specialist care to diagnose.
Yeah, and
help.
that is missing in our regional areas. It's not, there's not a lot of specialists even in the capitals, but out in the more regional areas right across the country, there's that's really missing. So what we found was that there were a lot of people who were living in isolation who thought, oh, this is just my voice. It's just what I have to live with.
Just deal with it.
Yeah, and then would become withdrawn. So they would be withdrawn from their work or from their relationships and start to become really insular.
Yep.
Next thing, they're depressed.
Yep.
The whole cycle, I guess, is so vicious, and yet the ability to meet other people who know what you're going through.
Definitely.
was just a massive step. So we started. We just thought, we don't know what the hell's going to happen here, but we're going to have a go.
But you started, and now where it is today is
Now
phenomenal.
We're really proud. We're hitting our 5th year. So we the very first thing we did before we were an organisation as such was to have a forum in Sydney and then see if anyone would come.
Yep.
And we were very fortunate to have great support from a number of specialists in the field who volunteered their time to come and speak. And we had it in a hotel in Sydney, and we could not have asked for anything better. But 2 weeks before the date of that forum, the ABC aired This Is Your Life and featured Jenny Morris.
Okay.
And Jenny Morris is, for those of us old enough to know, a very well-known Aussie singer who also developed spasmodic dysphonia.
Okay.
And it basically turned her career upside
Upside down, definitely.
And so that episode of Australian Story was aired, and as a result, people who were living at home went, oh my
Holy
God,
crap.
jumped online, found us, or found that there was a forum and registered, and we had people. We had one guy
Wow.
from Tasmania.
It's like it was meant to happen. Wow.
Absolutely meant to happen. A guy came from Tassie, a couple of people from out west of New South Wales, someone from Queensland, all flew to Sydney for this forum that Brenda, Lynn and I had just we funded it ourselves.
Yeah, I remember the stress. The stress was
because we didn't
quite
know
high.
when anyone was going to come.
Yep.
By then we'd recruited Mark, who was another guy that we kind of found. He found me somehow through the system, and I said to him, we're going to have this thing. Do you want to help us? Do you want to MC it? Because he also has spasmodic dysphonia, and he was an entertainer.
Okay.
So his life had been upended, and his voice was very broken, and he couldn't work.
Yep.
And I asked him to MC. He looked at me like I had 2 heads. I said, but that's really important,
definitely.
having somebody that is experienced in that role and showing what the impact of this disorder is. So
and what the effect has had, definitely.
So that was great. We had the forum. We had close to 50 people. I think it was 46 or something, which was so much better than we thought.
45 more than all of you thought was going to be there.
Exactly. And at the end of it, I think we were just going, this is fantastic. Shit, now what do we do?
Now, yeah.
And basically we asked those people that came along, did they believe there was a need for greater awareness, and did they believe that there was a need for a network of support? And of course the answer was yes.
Yes, definitely.
So we got a few other very committed and passionate people from that day. So Greg, who is our secretary, is still a part of it.
Yep.
And Ellie, who was there as a foundation member, but she's now had a baby and she's stepped back, but she's still part of our inner circle. But we then went, well, how the hell do you start an organisation? We don't know anything about it.
Yep.
But that was in October, and by the following April, we were a registered charity.
Wow.
It was just unbelievable learning, learning the ropes, learning the legal requirements, learning
Everything
fast.
Yeah, definitely.
And
There's a lot involved.
so much involved, but we were fortunate that each of us on that initial foundation group had different skills. So Greg came from a business background.
Okay.
I come from a health promotion background. Brenda has all her admin skills, writing skills, and also a lot of experience in the charity world.
Yes.
Ellie was actually a speech pathologist herself, and yet had developed her own issues. And Mark, as we said, was from the entertainment world, so he was great in terms of the networking. And Lynn had a long history of working with charities in advocacy areas, so we kind of had what we needed.
The foundation was definitely there for you to hit the ground running, basically.
Well, to pull everybody's a little bit together, and then we still didn't have... also we had almost forgot Sue, who came along just saying, nobody understands me, I don't know what I can do, but I'll help. So
That's
she
good.
was there at the beginning too. And from that, we are now, and it's hard to know because we're not a member organisation.
Mm-hmm.
We will just help anybody that needs advice or referral
support.
or support.
Yep.
We'll plug people together
Yes.
and then say, off you go. You
Which
do
is
it
exactly
now.
what the whole network is about.
Exactly. It's just that web of, okay, you need this. I know somebody that actually
Yes.
can help with that, or that has the same experience as you.
Definitely.
We have professionals, so a lot of speech pathologists amongst the extended network who kind of can jump online and maybe offer somebody not advice, not medical advice, but perhaps
Just
some
that little
tips,
bit of
a little
support.
bit of support, and tell them when it's time to actually see a specialist.
Definitely. And that can be just a big leap forward for an individual.
To know that they're being heard. I think
Yes.
one of the big things with this is because we are all so different and our voices fluctuate so much from week to week, day to day, and
Hour
when-
to hour,
Oh, it's just-
in Mum's case.
yeah, absolutely.
so
hour to
drastic,
hour. You
it's-
see it, don't you? You
Yeah,
see
definitely.
that roller
A lot
coaster
better
through
now.
the day. Yeah, now that she's on
She's great.
medication, she's fantastic. But back in those days, it was for
It was
her.
rough.
It was so rough,
Mm-hmm.
and yet she's so determined
Yes.
to keep going.
That's
and
where I
so
get it from.
determined. That's it. Your tenacity.
Yes.
So I think, when you are in that position where it changes, people kind of look at you and go, oh yeah, you're like, is this real?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I think many of us suffered from that feeling that people thought it was psychological, or, oh, if you just do this, it'll be okay, A
It's
number of
easy for people to give their 2 cents.
Yeah, they'll just go, oh, it's just like half and half. It's like being pregnant. Everyone has an opinion
Yes.
about you're carrying high, you're carrying low, you're going to have a boy, you're going to have, like, what the hell?
That's right.
And with this, it's like, have you tried honey? Have you tried rest? Have you tried yoga? Have you tried, get rid of the stress in your life? Like all
Yep.
that, it's bullshit,
Yep.
It's...
Like
well,
it's going to magically just tick the box and the problem
Yeah.
goes away.
There is no doubt that there are a lot of things we can do at
To help minimise.
self-care, and whatever works, whether it's relaxation or meditation or just basically a bit of time out.
Yep.
All those things help to reduce stress generally.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel better, you can deal better with
Yes.
what's going on here. But as for it being the other way around,
It doesn't happen.
it's not the other way.
No.
So anyway, so we provide that level of support. We
Mhm.
have also in the network, we have a group of nose and throat doctors who specialise in laryngology, so
Mhm.
that's a subspecialty, who are there that we can reach out to if we say, one in particular that I can email and say, someone contacted and they're in Timbuktu and they don't know who to talk to. Do you have someone
Is there
that you
anyone
can refer to?
there?
That's brilliant.
Or
That's-
closer than a 5-hour flight or
Yeah,
something for them
yeah.
to get to. Yep.
So being able to have that is great, and gradually getting recognition amongst those professional
Mhm.
networks as an organisation that is professional and that is trying to actually, like, we like to say we're not a cup of tea, sit around and whinge about
Yeah.
how bad life is.
Exactly.
That's not us. If people want to do that, that's fine.
That's fine. There's plenty of people that do.
Yeah, but that's not us. We're positive and we just want to support people to live the best life that they can and plug them into the places they need
Definitely.
to be. So anyway,
Network of action, helping
yeah,
people.
You're helping people, but not pretending we've got answers either.
Mhm.
That's
That's
another
right.
thing. So
I think a lot of it is what is great about the network is just the support. The support is there, so if someone does have a problem, or like you were saying earlier, if someone feels like they're alone or there's no outlet for them to come across the network and realise that, wow, there's this massive group of people that you can relate with,
Yeah.
and then as well get information from, or I dealt with that this way, this is what helped me, maybe try this. Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah,
makes
and it's coming from
so
a
much
place.
bearable.
Yeah, coming from a place of knowing, not coming from a place of, oh, you should
An
just
opinion.
do this, and it's an opinion.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're right. It is, and people pop in and out as they need. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like, as I said, that's why we're not a member organisation, because we don't actually give you anything other
Mm-hmm.
than support
Yep.
and connection, and we have resources. If you want them, you can jump on our website and we'll send them to you. We don't charge for that, we just
Mm-hmm.
do it. But we have people that are connected through a closed chat group on Facebook.
Okay.
But we also have a lot of people who that's not their thing,
Yep.
and they'll just email and ask a question, and I'll either connect them with somebody else on the board,
can
or
give
somebody in that bigger community
Mm-hmm.
that might be able to help. And we have some funny inquiries, so some that are not really our thing. I had one just recently that was a condition we'd never heard of, and it was completely unrelated, but this is someone that's reached out for help. So
That's right.
I put on my
what
nursey
you
health
can to help.
promotion hat and think, okay, what does this person need, and kind of send them off in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it's about. But our biggest challenge, or maybe I won't go there because I think that's your next question.
Yep.
That's a network in essence.
Yes.
It's a nothing, but it's massive, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yes.
It's nothing tangible. We don't have an office. We don't have physical.
It's just a giant
anything. It's
network.
a giant network. It's national. So although we started as just because of where we were, being in New South Wales,
Mhm.
we have people from every state, I think, except the Northern Territory,
Okay.
that are connected. We now have a board member in Perth. So we are working on building those
branching out.
networks out even further.
Global.
Yeah, no, actually, that's interesting you say that, because we made a decision very early that we are the Australian Dysphonia
yep.
Network, and while we are really happy to have our neighbours in New Zealand, we've had someone from New Guinea
Okay.
contact, and also someone from South Africa.
Wow.
So that, in our neck of the woods, in the Southern Hemisphere, in our neck of the woods, we're really happy to help. But the reason that for not being international is that our health system here is so
Completely
different.
It is.
And if someone from America or the UK asks about, for example, I have Botox injections,
Mhm.
which is why I'm working so well today.
Yep.
If they were to ask about the waiting time, the cost, the who to go to see,
There's so
it's
many
completely
variables.
different.
Yep.
So we decided that no, this is based on Australia because there was nothing here,
Mhm.
and Australia and our neighbours, because for that reason, to bring them in and give them support,
Mhm.
but also because of the way our health system operates.
They are quite similar.
Yeah.
Compared to New Zealand and Australia, they are
They're
quite similar.
They're very similar.
Mhm.
So, we'll do that. But again, we never pretend to have all the answers. So
Yes.
we just help the way we can.
Just try and steer people in the right direction and give
Yeah.
them some advice, some information, and hopefully makes their lives a lot easier and
Yeah.
manageable to do the day-to-day things.
Yeah, and to feel
Part of
like they're not
something.
going mad.
Yes.
No.
So I know from Mum at the start, especially when she did start to experience it, it was quite rough, because there was some times where she'd invite us all over for dinner, and then
Go.
we'd get a message like a couple of hours before saying she's
I've
not
gone to
feeling
bed.
that well. And it's just like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to talk to us. Like, that sounds quite bad, but it's not.
Yeah.
But we can still come over and
Yeah.
be around you, and
Yeah.
we can still talk and just
Yeah.
be together.
Yeah.
So it was actually quite hard at the start. But it's even now, some days when I see her, she has a bit of difficulty and she apologises, like, sorry, I can't talk. I'm
Yeah.
like, please do not apologise.
Yeah,
Like,
you
it's
don't have to apologise.
it's fine. Give her a hug, and it's fine. We're here.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
And I think it is hard. And I think being that person, it's one of the hardest things is saying no to people, or saying, I need to put myself first at the
Mhm.
moment, and I know I can't go with a group of friends to the pub because
Yep.
it's just too bloody hard.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't, or anywhere where there's a lot of noise, even restaurants that are noisy. It's not that that's an issue with COVID.
It's been nice and quiet recently.
I have to say, there are some benefits.
It's been great.
So the choice, like our social life changed dramatically to being limited to one or two friends together, choosing the location or just going to each other's home.
Yep.
And like you said, if it's the end of a really busy day, don't even bother.
That's right.
It's too difficult.
Yep.
But your mum, she's just awesome, and she learned really early that it is so physically exhausting.
It is, yeah.
That you have to say no. You have to look after yourself.
That's right.
Because if not, who else is going to?
Well, exactly, and it's not going to make you feel any better.
By pushing.
You need that rest. Get that rest, and you're good to keep going.
Yeah, so anyway, that's why we're here, and then it's a little bit about what we do.
Yes.
But I don't know, what else do you want to ask me?
We have a couple of more questions, so I can move on to that.
Yeah.
So this is a bit more on some of the key points. So what I have here is, if you would like to give us some key points the network is working towards in the way of any goals or any achievements you're kind of on track with or wanting to achieve with the network, and then also with grants and stuff. Is there any grants that you are currently eligible for, and the process in getting approved for those grants, I guess, because I know there is quite a process, and you kind of name gets thrown in the barrel with a lot of other organisations and networks. So
and we don't have much of a voice.
Yes.
That's another pun. Okay, so and in terms of what we're hoping is, we've talked a lot about the support and just providing that personal kind of connection for people. That's a really big part of it. But right from the beginning we said, and I think I mentioned it, that we wanted to be seen as a professional action organisation. So we thought, well, what needs to change? And there's a few things, and that is that the broader community needs to understand the value of voice and the impact of what happens when it doesn't work. So there's an advocacy sort of an awareness role there. We also need GPs and medical people generally to understand about what we mentioned before, that
not just diagnosing option A every time,
because they're super busy people, and it's just having an ear to think there could be more to this than just simply being voiceless, and then for them to know what to do with that and where to refer and
to refer to a specialist. So maybe just go and have a consultation. There might be nothing there, but if there is, then that support network becomes available.
So that's right. So what do you need to do about treatment, and then how do we support you so that it doesn't become an issue for that practicing physician, but they know that once that person walks out the door, that there is someone that can give them
the help.
So there's that. So it's letting GPs across the country know that we exist, and then helping them to know how to diagnose and then where to refer if somebody needs specialist treatment. So they're big goals. They're really big goals.
Is there a goal? Is there a way you have? Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Is there a plan you have, I guess, kind of in motion to spread that awareness? Is that a case of I'll take 1,000 flyers and just drop them into GPs' offices on my way around town?
Absolutely. So I'm going to come to that one in a minute because it ties into the grant business.
Beautiful.
So initially it was support, advocacy. So support the people, advocate so the community knows more, and awareness raising. Get GPs, educate GPs. So that's again advocacy and awareness. Research is our other one. Okay, nobody does it. Well, that's not quite true. There's a little bit of research, but which helps us to understand the underlying, like, connections between other conditions and voice disorders. But research into what works to support people when they need it. And we have funded one research scholarship so far, which was
Okay.
pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Through the University of Sydney. And that was like a big tick. The day we did that,
Definitely.
it was like, wow,
That's an achievement.
We're playing with the big people now.
Yeah, moving forward, definitely.
So we've done one, we've got other plans for that. But going back to the grants, everything we want to do like that needs money.
Yeah, definitely. That funding needs to be there.
So if we want to change the way people view voice disorders, then we need money to pay for research and money to reach GPs.
Yes.
Because you're right, we could take a bunch of lies and drop them. But the impact of that's not so
Not that great. Yep.
And Australia's a big place. There's a lot of GPs.
Definitely.
So we're currently applying for money to develop an education program for GPs.
Okay.
And it lives on an GP education platform where, as you know, they well, you might not know, but as with most professionals, they're obligated to do so much training to keep their profession up to speed. And this particular platform is one of a few where they can go in and they can be, you know, at home sitting with a glass of red and jump online and do a training module that will give them points.
On some type of website.
Yeah.
Some type of portal,
Yep, through a portal, do the training. For them, lights come on, learn the basics, get some points, so that helps their professional accreditation.
Definitely.
But then support it with access to some of the videos that we've made around, you know, the personal experience of, you know, and the impact, so that it becomes a little bit more than diagnostic, but this is why.
Yeah.
Oh my God, these people, you know, have lost their job because of it, or their relationship was broken, or whatever. Make it real. So that, to do that, we need that particular project. We need $50,000.
Wow.
And
that's just to get that in motion.
Yeah, to actually build the education program to make it accredited.
Yep.
So it's not just us saying this is a good idea.
It needs to be accredited.
It's an accredited program, and the company that we've approached, they do that. They ensure that it is. So they're doctors and medical people. And we can work with our buddies at the Dr. Liang Voice Program. It's the one research centre in Australia, and it's at Sydney Uni. So they can be involved to
With
help
that.
ensure that everything's really accurate,
Okay.
because that's not our, you know, that's medical stuff.
That's right.
But what we can do is then plug in all of the human real life experiences, and to make it a really meaningful thing.
Yep.
If we could get $50,000, we will reach 65,000 GPs.
Wow.
And that's cheaper than a postage stamp.
Yeah, definitely.
So-
and the impact that would have. 'Cause
Doesn't mean that they're all going to do the training. I
No,
mean,
definitely
you know,
not.
let's not
Definitely
be.
not.
We can't pretend, but that's the reach of that particular training organisation. Has an audience of 65,000 doctors.
And if that one GP goes, I know 10 of my current patients that are suffering similar.
That maybe this helps. You know.
That's correct.
So what that does is help them to understand, what can I do about it right here and right now, and at what point do I need to refer them, or pick up the phone and call one of the professionals listed who can give me, as a doctor, give me the tips
Bit
about
of
what
advice,
to do.
that's right. So, hey, I've been seeing this person for a couple of years now. I've just done a bit of training and noticed that this could be a potential problem.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? And that's the network. That's the whole
network.
That's the whole purpose.
So it's kind of like the network itself is you can think of it in layers. It's, you know, the people that need us just to feel loved and supported, and then it's the professionals that want to be part of that, but then also want to influence their own networks, and then it's the bringing the research in on top that puts us into those professional circles as a group of people that are not just a homespun bunch of whingers because life threw them
a curveball. Yep.
So that's our biggest one, is for hopefully for this year. We have applied. for numerous grants.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we could cobble not the whole 50,000 but bits of it together, that would be just awesome.
It's just a big help.
But you know, we don't rate really highly on all of the grants are such a funny thing because
The criteria for them is
it's really
very
strict, and there's been a lot in the news lately about the way government grants are issued and that it's not always as transparent perhaps as it should be. So there's that. But more of an issue is that a lot of the accessible grants are local government based.
Okay.
So the local council has grants to do something in that area.
Okay.
But because
Whether they
we're a
choose
national, we're a national body, so therefore we have to demonstrate how many people in
that
their
community
area are going to, like, I live in
They're gonna
Hawkesbury.
benefit.
So if I was to apply for a grant here in the Hawkesbury and then tell them that we're going to do something that's going to help people in Perth,
They're
going to go, well,
go
Yeah.
see
yeah.
the governing body over there.
So
Okay.
we would need to be applying to every local council at the same
Yes.
time because we don't know where people are. So local council's not so appropriate for us. There are other kinds of grants, but most of them have very specific requirements. And also the truth is that at the moment we've got people still recovering from bushfires.
Yes.
And the massive impact that had. We've got people that have been really badly affected because of COVID.
Yep.
So
A lot of businesses have been closed and
Yes.
jobs and sources of income lost.
Exactly. So expecting the average Joe, we've done well with fundraising over the years. We've had events and we've fundraised, but it feels a little bit disingenuous to ask people to give us money
There's so
when
much
their
other people
business,
in need.
yeah, or you know, the businesses that might have supported us are struggling themselves.
Yep.
So we've really got to find a bigger company that is really able
Happy
to
to
recognise,
back the network,
that wants to give back. We've thought about places that would be really appropriate, like sound equipment companies. You know, people whose business realise
Influential podcasters. Not such as myself. Maybe a bit more higher on the list than myself.
Exactly
But
like yourself.
Yep.
But radio stations,
Yes.
telcos, you know, imagine telecommunications without voice.
Exactly.
We'd all be texting, but we wouldn't be talking.
There's a lot of there's a lot of high profile radio stars that I could imagine if they suddenly developed an issue with their voice.
They'd be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd be gone.
20 plus year career gone.
Just gone out the window. And,
Yep.
and as I said before, we've had in our network, we have a number of entertainers and people who that has been their life's bread. You know, it's and their passion. And when you take that away, it's awful. But you've imagined that, you know, one of the faces that you see every night on the television reading the news
Yep.
fell over
Suddenly
because of
not
her
there.
voice,
Yeah.
then it would be a
That's right.
big deal. But we need organisations or companies that can recognise that
Yep.
to say what you're doing is good and will help you.
Definitely.
And so far, we haven't cracked it. So maybe you can help.
You're on the way. It's great. I want to start, helping as much as I can. I do have another question in regards to that later on, so I won't go too far into what we can do there just yet.
Yeah.
I definitely do want to start doing some things to help, because for even the reason of this, doing the podcast, if I didn't have the full ability of my voice, I don't think I wouldn't be able to do the podcast, but it would just make the entire process that much more strenuous and just frustrating and just difficult to deal with. So it's a credit to you and mum and everyone else that can still do the day-to-day, because it would not be the easiest thing at the best of times.
It hasn't been easy, and I know that for your mum there were many times that we talked about the modifications that she had to consider in her role at work and what could be. And, you know, we have both been lucky to work in jobs where we've had understanding people around us who were willing to allow us to adjust the way we work. But not everybody's fortunate like that.
That's right.
And I do remember that in my early years, before I arrived at this point where it's a bit predictable now about what can happen with my voice, a bit more predictable.
To an extent.
To an extent, yeah. But when I was always sounded like this, and I was really struggling to be heard, I just felt like I can't do my job. I'm a health promoter. How the hell do I speak at a conference, talk to the media, answer a bloody telephone? I just couldn't do it. And I just spiraled into
the toll that will take on you mentally would be immense.
It was terrible because that was my identity. My identity was so caught up. Like I said, I'm a talker. Most people who work in health promotion are talkers. And I was sort of competing in this space where I couldn't literally could not be heard. I thought, that's not working for me. So I've been really lucky to have support at work and be able to find other ways to do my job. As with your mum, let's, work out some ways with microphones and, taking time away from telephones and what have you. And also we're lucky, all of us are lucky to live in a world of technology.
Yes, it makes life a lot easier at times. 20,
30 years ago, we didn't have, text for a start. We didn't have SMS, or if we did, it was very early days.
I think they still had the phone you had to spin the dial on to make phone calls.
That was a bit longer than that. It was a bit further. That was a bit further. That was still, that was the old days. Smoke signals. But picking up a phone, if you couldn't do that, then what did you have?
How do you communicate? That's right. How do you talk to someone?
So, but now we have, everyone has email. Everyone has text messaging. Everybody has, even a video call is better because at least you can see the person. And even if there's not much voice coming out, you can kind of get it. So we are lucky. We're not complaining. We're really lucky. But the challenges are still massive.
They're still there.
And the strain on relationships is there. So I think we just need people to appreciate that a bit.
Bit of compassion goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
So, money. If anyone out there that's listening wants to fling us some money, we as I said, we've got a couple of grant applications in at the moment. One of them, which I love the sound of, actually promotes itself as a grant for the charities that nobody else wants to touch. That's us.
With that, I think that we can lead into the next question with that, and that is, how are you currently helping the Australian Dysphonia Network grow in regards to public events, functions, and just bringing that awareness towards yourselves? And is there any way that we can provide more awareness for these events? Because I know I myself would be more than happy to share this on all my social media platforms, even though the reach is not that great. It's anything is better than nothing at all.
Look, I think that's an awesome thing. It's an awesome offer, and thank you. And I think the more
I've already been doing my little bit tagging ADN here and there as I'm going along. So
and that's awesome, because you just never know which person is going to see that, pick it up, and read it and go, oh, that's my mum, or that's somebody. That's right. And I had a situation like that just recently, speaking to somebody in regard to the doctor training program. Actually, the woman that I was talking to about developing it said, oh my God, I've never heard of this. And you know what? She said, this is exactly what my mum's got. Wow. And she started to cry. It's like, I didn't know there was a network for it.
Wow.
So I thought, if nothing else happens, that's good.
Exactly.
So, every little bit helps. But in terms of events and awareness raising, our biggest thing annually is World Voice Day. And World Voice Day is the 16th of April. And it started in Brazil back in 1999.
Wow.
And it was originally just a group of scientists, voice scientists, that kind of thought the voice is such a unique instrument, and it's really underrated. Nobody knows about it.
Definitely underrated.
And it's an awesome thing. If you get to learn about how it works, it's pretty amazing. So they, as their nerdy science kind of people that they were, decided it needed a day of celebration. And I think it certainly wasn't a joke, but it was a very in-house thing.
Yeah.
And gradually over the years, people who were big in voice performance picked it up as a way of, well, okay,
Celebrating.
it is an instrument, and
Yep.
we've got it, and we're going to celebrate it. And then when I got involved with them was 2013, I think, and I became the ambassador here for Australia.
Yep.
So the connection for the world group, and I kind of went, well, this is awesome, and let's celebrate voice, because there's a dark side to this, and that is when it goes wrong, when good times turn bad. So it's a double-edged sword, where it's an opportunity for people to put the spotlight on where would we be without all those wonderful performances, but then also, and if things are not working well, here's a place to go to get some support or advice.
Which is great.
So that around that time, traditionally, we've hosted a number of events, and we've had some pretty amazing concerts. And
Who's having one this year?
no,
Oh,
it's
you've done having one this year?
COVID has become, last year we didn't, because, well, actually we were thinking, gosh, the bushfires, is anybody going to be really in the mood for, as we were saying before, the fundraising element of it? We'll do something low key.
Yep.
And then we got closer to the time and COVID had hit, so all plans
out the window.
were out the window. So basically, we've been, like most things, we've had to pivot.
Yep.
And think
Readjust and change your plans.
That's right. And think about what we can do online. So we'll have a media release. We've got a series of personal stories, videos that we'll be releasing around that time, and we'll be plugging into some work with the Australian Voice Association. And it'll be more of there may be a webinar. We're talking with them about that. But in terms of, public events, not so much this year, because it's, apart
I was
from the
looking forward
fact
to
that...
going back to Joan Sutherland Centre to see some people perform again. That was great.
Yeah, look, we had some really awesome events. There was the Joan Sutherland Centre each year for I don't know how many years, and then we were Panthers won. We had a big event there. We had events in at Paddington at the I can't think of the name of the hall down there, the Paddington Town Hall.
Okay.
And then we had a really fabulous fundraiser up in Newcastle that was really well supported, and it was more of an afternoon cocktail-y kind of meal and concert, and made quite a bit of money.
That's great.
So they're great ways to have some fun and us
bring some
awareness,
awareness,
pass around the bucket and get a few dollars.
and get some fundraising in the process.
But as I said, the COVID situation means that even if we were allowed to have something, the amount of work that goes into that to just get to the day and say sorry, it's off, we can't afford.
Yeah,
that.
definitely. The resources involved is it's quite high.
Yeah, so we're looking at a few different things. We're about to launch a creative writing initiative that's not going to raise us any money, but it's a bit of awareness raising, and asking people who have been silenced if they've ever or would like to write something, whether it's a short story or a poetry or a rap
Just to
tune
share
or whatever,
some
and then
experience.
share that, because that's a lovely way of kind of pouring your heart out.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great.
We'll be getting those out and about, but
You did do a couple of YouTube series, a few series, because I know Mum was part of one of them.
So we have a couple of videos that we made that we've released the longer version on YouTube, which is there's two. There's one that's the professional, so doctors and speech pathologists talking about dysphonia from their perspective, and then one that is a series of us telling our own stories. I think there are 9 people that share a little bit of their journey and how it impacted them and what have you, but that is being cut into little small chunks so that there'll be individual standalone ones, so we're hoping to have them ready to pop up just as shareable pieces that'll be maybe 5 minutes or something. I think there's nothing
Just to
more,
help spread the awareness.
Yeah,
And get the personal stories.
there's nothing more powerful than hearing someone's real story. You
definitely.
know? So we'll be doing.
And I'm going to share all of that anyway, because all of this information I'll have in the description of all the social media stuff.
That's
and all the
awesome.
links for everything. Yeah.
That's
I'll
really
have
good.
everything
You
in
know,
there.
it's that you know.
If only one person follows that through and learns
Yeah.
something, that's I'm quite happy with that.
And we know, I mean, you know more than I do how this world works, that if somebody sees something and they go, wow, I didn't know that, that's interesting, then
Yeah.
they'll tell somebody,
That's right.
who'll tell somebody, who'll tell somebody.
If it only gets passed on to one person each time, it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
way better than the alternative. So.
Yeah, and either what we end up with is somebody who benefits from the information for themselves or a family member, or someone that says, you know what, I've been looking for a good charity to support.
Definitely.
And I would love to, end of financial year,
Yep.
you know, I want to donate $5,000
That's
and,
right.
and that's a good charity. I mean, we would love that.
Perfect. Everyone watching.
Yeah, everyone watching, yeah, if you happen to have spare money. Yeah, so, you know, meanwhile, as I said, we're optimistic.
Yep.
And
Which you have to be.
You have to be. And when we sit
With
and-
mum in the room, you're quite optimistic.
Yeah,
there's no Debbie Downers around.
no
when
way.
Mum's around.
The minute that you start to say it won't happen, then that gets sucked. And I'm really.
Mum will get the belt out and she'll start swinging it around.
You shouldn't hear you with a belt.
She will not.
Surely.
She will not.
Not that you're this big now.
No.
No, and I'm really, really happy to say that everyone that's on our board has that can-do
mentality.
attitude. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the minute that you kind of get a whiff of, oh no, that won't work, or there's no point, or whatever, you just kind of go, you know what, you don't
Yep.
belong here. So we've had a little bit of turnover, and not for this reason, a little bit of turnover amongst our board members, just personal reasons that people commit for a year and then say, you know, this is not for me, or life is in the way, and they step back, but then they become our support group.
They're still
one step removed.
Within.
Yeah, but we've not had anybody that has put their hand up to be involved in driving the ship who has been negative.
Okay, that's
you know,
good.
Everyone has like this.
Everyone plays their
This
own.
is really shit,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah.
it's shit, but
There's always a but.
Yeah,
You can always move forward.
yeah, we can do stuff. You know,
It's great to have that network within. So if something is a bit off or someone is feeling a bit off, there's always that support to go, hold on, why don't we go this way?
Yeah.
And there's always that little push.
or you know, if what somebody is having you know, a bit of a tough time, there's enough people there to kind of hold them and go, it's okay, take a breath.
Yep.
We'll keep the ship afloat.
Yep.
Just breathe and then jump back on when you're ready. Or we change direction, you know, whatever works.
And majority of the time, that change of direction seems to be the best course of outcome.
It's funny, but that has a way, doesn't it?
Yep.
When they say life has a way of giving you what you need.
Yeah, not what you want.
Just keep waiting for the money.
Yes.
We did have real success a couple of years ago, which we were so grateful for. That we got a grant for $10,000, which was what enabled us to make the videos and the quality. Like, we produced some, you know, you'll get to see them all.
Yes.
Really high quality pieces of video that have been used and will continue to be used in education and you know, awareness raising that are awesome. And had we paid full price for those, we would have been, you know, $70,000-$80,000. But we had videographers who were prepared to work with us
To help.
cut their prices.
Yep.
And we had this grant, so for $10,000, and it was from Grace Furniture Removals.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
I do remember that. That it was from Grace. I
Grace,
remember.
it was, Grace Gibbs was the name of the grant.
When was that? Three,
Probably
4
3 years ago. About 3 years ago we would have got it. And then it was
I remember Mum
12
nearly
months.
doing backflips. It was crazy.
It was so awesome.
Yeah.
It's like $10,000 that that was like yours to do
It's
whatever
such a
you
big
need,
help,
and we had the plan. So we had, when we started, we had big plans to make a video.
Mm-hmm.
So we achieved that in
Yep.
more than one, to launch some research, and
Mm-hmm.
we've done that. Our first one, you know, branded with Sydney Uni, so we've done that. And to educate and train GPs, so that's our big one this year.
Yep.
While at the same time holding that environment for people to, you know, learn a little bit about us and us to learn a bit and support them. So, yeah, I
It's all
think
about education.
yeah, for a relatively small organisation with nothing,
Yep,
I think we've done okay in 5 years.
definitely. And it'll be very interesting to see where the next 5 takes you guys. It'll be very
We're
interesting.
shouting.
You'll be yelling from the rooftops.
We'll be yelling with our broken voices. We'll be yelling.
Yes.
I'll be shoving more Botox in, and I'll
Yep.
be yelling. No, it's great, and it's really good when we do have people who we meet who are incredibly disabled because of their voice, and gradually find the right mix of management or treatment, and they're able to kind of go, oh, life is so much better. You
Yep.
know, it's not fixed. It's going to be there forever, but
But
it's okay.
they now have those practices, I guess, to manage.
Yeah.
And if they do notice, I know especially in Mum's case, she'll let us know straight away if she's starting to not feel that great.
Yeah.
She won't go quiet, but she will be
Yeah.
like, I'm not
I'm
feeling
not up
that
for it."
great. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
just relax
I'll
on the
just
talking.
chill, yeah.
She'll just speak when she needs to say something.
Yeah, or if it's, I was going to quote, I know she and I do this a lot, we'll arrange a time, you know, are you up for a video chat or a call or a whatever, and either one of us might say when the time comes, oh, can we do that tomorrow?
Not feeling too good.
feeling it, yeah.
Yep.
It's, or feeling just exhausted
Yep.
and need to
Definitely.
not talk.
But it's great to be aware of that, so you don't
Yeah.
push yourself and make things not worse, but
Well, it does
just
make
so you
things
don't
worse.
feel worse about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make it worse because then you're not good for anybody if you're exhausted mess. Anyway, that's it. What else did you want to ask me? Was there anything more?
This is the last question I have for you. So this is what I was talking about before in the way of what we can do to help. So is there anything myself, like directly myself, or anyone watching this video or listening to this podcast can do to help the network directly, as I am more than happy to help in any way I possibly can, and I'm sure that a lot of people watching would be very willing to help as well.
There's a couple of things. That's a big question. There's
Money,
a couple
give
of
us all the money.
yeah. Well, that's the
It helps.
no-brainer. That's
It
the
definitely
no-brainer.
helps.
Give us the money. Throw the money at us.
It definitely helps. Not
You
the
know,
ultimate answer.
The biggest thing that any person can do, and it's really not hard, is to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, we talk about awareness raising. The only way that's going to happen is if people actually go,
Talk
hey,
about it.
I heard this thing and it was about this and I never thought about it.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine going through life not being able to be heard.
Yep.
Imagine going through life with a voice that just cuts out when you most need it. And then either referring them to listen to the podcast or to read something or whatever. So everyone's capable of that. It's like, let's not ignore it.
It's just that awareness.
It's real.
Yep.
And everybody is our champion for
Yep.
that. Because they wouldn't be having a conversation with their mate if
Exactly.
they didn't have the voice.
Definitely.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, any opportunities, if they come across somebody where they might sense that they have an issue themselves or they hear of that, being able to say, hey, I know about this network, contact them.
Maybe they'd be able to help you, or they might have some information.
to steer you. So being a little, an ad, I guess, for us. So it's awareness of the conditions, an ad for the Dysphonia Network, because we really love to hear from people and help be part of the puzzle to connect them with where they need to go. So there's that. Then there's, eyes and ears for money and you know, any opportunity for funding, whether it's big or little, is...
You do have a donation
We do. We do.
page on the website?
Thank you. That's,
Okay, so I will have the website in the description for all of this, but I will also put the link just directly to the donation, page.
So there
and I'll
is-
make that noticeable. I'll put that all in caps or bold or something, so
Awesome.
it's quite visible.
So you can donate to us, and it's tax deductible. We have a link to a My Cause portal. So My Cause is the way that as soon as you make a donation, you get a tax receipt from that. If you have choices, you can do it through that way. You can deposit money directly into our bank, and all the details are there to do that. And we would generate a receipt for you in that instance. So it just depends how people like to do it. Or we have we've deliberately not gone down the road of merchandise because it's such a difficult thing to manage.
Yes.
But we did develop...
It is.
Yeah, you know that.
It is.
It
can be.
It can
be quite difficult.
Yeah, and it can be difficult because, we don't have a lot of money to outlay, so if we have to buy things and try and sell them, there's that. And then there's...
And then you're holding on to... You basically got money sitting on the shelf that you can't do anything with.
That's right. And as a charity, I guess we've got to be super careful about what we do. People
Those
give us money.
expenses.
They don't give us money to just park it on a shelf.
Exactly.
So we haven't gone down that path, except for... We developed a coffee mug, which was specifically designed so that when one of us is having a bad day, the coffee mug actually has your menu, your order on it. So you use a little sticker and it says, I like a cappuccino with skim milk with 2 sugars.
You can just...
And you just pass it over because
Yep.
one of the toughest places to be is a coffee shop.
It can be quite noisy and a lot of... There's usually a lot of boisterous people
there's
walking around and want their coffee.
They're fun, they're boisterous, they're loud, there's coffee cups clanging, there's the machine going, there's people yelling.
Usually right when you order, it's the loudest time within the room as well.
Exactly, and then the barista will say, sorry, what did you want? And then...
Then that struggle.
Try. So if you can say it's on the cup. Now, they are not, they're pretty, I don't know if you've seen it, but they are a double-walled insulated cup, so they're super functional. And they're for everybody. They're not just for people with a voice disorder. And so they're on the website for anyone that wants to buy one, and we can have it personalised with a name if you want. But apart from that, merchandise, no. And as I said, that came about because of a couple of people in the network that had said how frustrating that particular thing was. And we thought we can help with that.
Yeah.
So,
but that's another thing that people would take for granted.
Yeah.
Just something as...
What you
would consider as simple as just ordering a coffee.
Yeah.
Like it can make that process so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, you just don't think about it. We also have... for people that are affected, they can contact us, and we have an introduction card that just says, hi, I live with a chronic voice disorder, we'll be okay, but we just both need to be patient with each other. So that's one, and we have a separate one that says my order's written on the back, so that you can write, in the instance, this was before the coffee mugs, you could write that or whatever you wanted on the back of the card and hand it over. So, and they're free. If anyone needs them, they can just order them. But the coffee mug it's a unique and very particular situation to find yourself in when you can't order your coffee.
A lot of people want their morning coffee.
Exactly.
So it's definitely a great piece that would help a lot of people.
I said we can have it personalised. One of the things for me, when my voice is bad, there are certain sounds that just don't work.
Just don't get out. Yep.
And saying my own name is hard. So say, look, even now, Louise can be difficult. So in a noisy environment, and they go, okay, can I have a name for your coffee? And it doesn't work. I think, So if you've got a mug that's got your name on it and your order, you just go.
You just pass it over.
Yeah.
That's right.
So anyway, if you want to buy one, they're on the website.
And there is, I'm not too sure on how far it is advanced now, But there are a few older entrepreneurs and stuff that I follow that kind of recommend a lot of people get in the text to speech field, because moving forward, even people without voice disorders or any type of dysphonia, a lot of people don't want to talk. They just want to be able to go
Text.
and this is what I want, and they don't have to put any effort into it. So that might be something that would help, because you could just everyone has a phone, as we were talking about before. You could simply type your message in and press play, and then it just speaks.
There are a couple of apps already out there that do similarly. They and with varying levels of success. Some of them are really accurate, some of them are not, or less accurate. And in fact, a couple of people in the network that rely on communication that is auto-generated. So there are some programs and some particular devices, but you're talking kind of high end in terms of just day-to-day communication. Text to talk apps can be great. What you lose, obviously, in that is the intonation and the emotion in your voice. So, but definitely a help. One of the other things, and I didn't mention it, I should have thought, but it's been a passion of Brenda's and mine, particularly right from the start, was a discrete amplification system.
Okay.
So if you happen to know anybody in that field, we've done a lot of work with a lot of different people over the years. We've worked with Western Sydney Uni design students, and come up with some prototypes, but getting the actual prototype to move to the next step is incredibly expensive
and time consuming.
But I know that I'm old, and I know that I'm not across all technology, but I honestly can't believe that in a day, so since we first started to now, things have moved so fast.
Yes.
I can't believe that in a day where we have a Bluetooth earpiece connects to our phone, and that we can have our phone in our pocket and have a conversation walking down the street, why we cannot have that operating where our phone becomes the microphone, so that we've got a headpiece not connected to anything, simple, that is able to Bluetooth to a amplification.
It's doing exactly this job. It's just projecting.
It's just projecting,
Yep.
But something that doesn't make me look like I have, a big sign above my head saying I'm special and I need help. That just makes me look like everybody else, and that uses my phone or a small Wi-Fi speaker, so that when I'm in a meeting on a day that my voice is not bad, or I'm out at dinner in a restaurant, and I can pop my speaker on the table, and I just talk
normally. You don't have to worry about trying to raise your voice or stress about actually getting your voice out.
Because most of us, regardless of what our underlying condition is, most of us will tell you that the single biggest issue is, even when I'm fluent like this, if I try to speak loudly, the more I try, the more it will break.
The harder it gets.
It breaks up, it becomes stressed, and the muscles don't work. I'm almost whispering, like, this is so beautiful.
And it's, if you can, like you're saying, have a device like that where you can just talk normally without any stress on your voice whatsoever, then
it's magic. So if I could speaking at this level, so that I can moderate my voice and I know it's working, because there are lots of tricks to doing this. It's not
as simple as just
that's the other thing, that people look and go, oh yeah, you're having a good voice day. But you should think what's going on inside my head to make that work. But the key to it is being able to be at a consistent sort of pitch and volume. So if we had something that would allow this in a noisy environment, it would be magic.
Definitely be a lot easier.
So if any of your tech boffins are out there, can think about that.
There's I know a few people that kind of are into making some stuff and playing around with things, so that could be quite interesting.
You know, it's just, literally it's the reverse of the way hearing aid works.
Exactly.
If you're picking up the sound from the inside of your head,
Yep.
and projecting it out instead of taking sound
Taking
and
it
putting
in.
it in.
That's right.
All of our research has been quite fascinating. We came across the microphone communication system that's used in combat.
Okay.
So in the
Well,
force,
they're on their...
it's either on their neck
yep.
or in their ear,
Yep.
and it's bone conduction. So
Yep.
the way it works is that it's like this, or it's like eating popcorn. You know
Yep.
how it's so loud inside your head. So it's being able to, if you imagine being out in a war zone, communicating with your mate, but without actually using
You're
a
not
loud
yelling
voice.
at someone, yeah.
You can whisper and
Yep.
still be heard. So we want that
Yep.
for everyday use, and we want it to be able to connect somehow to something tiny,
Definitely.
like a phone
Definitely.
or a small speaker.
That'll be great.
So there's your challenge.
Yeah. There's the challenge. Anyone watching, there you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Now that's
Yeah.
quite interesting, because I do think that there are some smart individuals out there that will definitely be able to do something, but then the limit on that goes to production and testing
Yeah.
and everything else. But if that's a hurdle that can be overcome, I'd like to think there'd be quite a market for that, especially if it's only in the training
Yeah.
aspect, to just give it to people that need it, much like hearing aids.
Yeah.
Seeing a specialist and going
And
through
being
that route.
prescribed it, more or less.
Definitely.
I think that in terms of the cost thing, that's when we started this journey, and we started thinking about where see, didn't want to work, did it? Wearable amplifiers and speakers. We started out with something that we wanted to be quite discreet, but really were clunky.
Yep.
We've now, in that space of probably 7 years, we've been talking about this. We're down to the point where, if it could be as simple as cobbling together existing things like your Apple earbuds and or something similar and a phone or a Wi-Fi speaker, the cost suddenly becomes much more affordable.
Yes, a lot smaller.
Yeah, and it's kind of like joining the dots, and I think the stumbling block seems to be the amplifier.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't understand this enough, but I know that it's got to throw from something to then go to the
Well, there's especially in regards to like a little wireless speaker, and even those Apple earpods that everyone has. I don't use them because I don't have an Apple, so I can't use them. Excuse me, but they have the microphone in them.
Yeah.
So if you could, however that program works, I don't see why there is no reason that microphone cannot be projected to a Bluetooth speaker. So the only thing there is you need the phone to run the Bluetooth for both devices. But if you had the little speaker that had its own Bluetooth source to pick up the headphones, and then it's just projecting.
That's the bit. Like I said, I don't even pretend to understand.
But all the technology's there.
But to me, it's like all the bits are there, but it's getting this one to talk to that, and being I think you just said it. It's doing two things. Like one tool can't do the two things, so you need two different bits. But anyway,
I definitely think there's a way that someone can make that work.
Okay.
That's got my curiosity cogs turning now.
Okay. Well, that's probably a good note to wrap up on, because it could be potentially such a useful tool.
Definitely.
I mean, we know that in classrooms that teachers can, if they choose to, they can use a surround sound system that picks up. They can wear a neck microphone and it can project to save their voices.
That's right.
But that's not something you can do when you're out at a restaurant.
Yes, that's correct.
So you want to bring it all back down into a portable thing.
A bit more useful for just an individual. Yes, that is quite interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. On that, we might wrap it up on that.
Okay.
So I have just my little outro here for now. And that's just to say thank you to you for, first of all, having me in your beautiful house today. We were meant to be outdoors. The weather kind of threw us a curveball with that one. But I do think this turned out quite a bit better, because I've been hearing the birds go the whole time, and if we were outside it would be a lot louder through the microphone. So
but the birds are nice.
They are.
It gives you that kind of outdoor
they're just letting us know they're there. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much for having me in your home. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate it. It's been great learning a bit more as well. I kind of slowed down on the research. As I mentioned at the start, I didn't want to just sit here and pretend I know what it's about when I myself don't go through it. So I definitely don't want to be in that position ever. So thank you for the education, I guess, the bit of information and awareness that hopefully we can spread to a bunch of people. Even if one person can get something out of this, we're moving in the right direction. So
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for taking the time, because I know it's a little bit left of centre with what you would normally do.
it's great though, because it's more personal
Yeah.
to me with mum and everything
Yeah.
mum's gone through. So
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
it kind of helps to, I suppose,
Helps me understand a bit more as well,
Absolutely.
some of the things that mum could go through. So it's great.
yeah, and so thank you, thanks for coming, and I just hope that somebody out there learns something. If nothing else, you said you've been educated. Now
Yeah,
you
definitely.
suddenly become an advocate. Well, maybe we
Exactly.
should make badges that says, I'm a
Advocate for ADN.
yeah, I'm an advocate for it.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
work on that.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Aaron.
Not a problem at all. Thank you. The very end of this is, I just got some information here. This is just for all the links for everything that is involved with Australian Dysphonia Network. I'm not sure, is there any way any individual is involved with the grant process, or is that strictly like there's a governing body that controls the grant process? Like, I can't jump on a website and vote for you to receive that grant in that case.
No, not with most of them. Okay, the Grace Gives one
That was
like that.
okay.
That was like
because I do remember sharing some information about that then.
Yeah, so occasionally they come out, and that's a way for a company to have what they see as a community-based fair way
Yep.
to distribute funds.
Okay.
But most of them, they're not like that. Most of them are in-house, and they're philanthropic organisations or
choose
their
this.
business,
Yeah.
and they read your submission, and they don't necessarily go to a vote, which is
Okay.
unfortunate. If any of them do come up that are like that, we can let you know, and then
Yeah,
we can
definitely.
share it around.
Definitely,
But
I'll keep my eyes out
it's
for
not
that.
the majority, though, sadly. Yeah.
Wow, that's a bit of a bummer. But oh well, we can work on that. That'll be great.
Just knowing about any,
Yes.
knowing about any grants that come up, because they're often hard to find. You
Yes.
know, there's the government grants, and there's the philanthropic grants, which are kind of long standing, and then there's specific grants for cancer research or this research or that research. There ain't none for voice research.
Yeah, and if
So-
there is, they're very quite specific and I can assume long-winded.
Long-winded, and what you gotta
The hoops you have to jump through to
hoops.
get them. Yep. So all the information will be below, all the links, all the donation links. I will definitely put that in there. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this podcast and learnt something. If you know anyone that suffers from any type of issue or abnormality in any kind of way with their voice or with their talking, pass this podcast on to them. Just mention Australian Dysphonia Network and get them onto it. They might be able to help them in some way. So yeah, enjoy your day. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you.
That's it.
Awesome.
That's it.
Well done. That's a wrap.
Thank you,
Good
Louise.
job.
And it would hurt